In the last 13th and 14th session, we talked about relationships. Today, let's proceed to the basics, the fourth virtue of navigatorship. The basic keywords are friends, manners, appreciation, listening, honesty, respect, laugh, consideration. 1. Basics and fundamentals of things are phenomena, theories, two friends, a close friend. 3. Manners, a way of speaking or behavior to express the will of respect. 4. Appreciation, think thankfully, or such mind. 5. Listening to your ear. 6. Honesty, straight and rightness without lie or embellishment. 7. Respect, treat preciously. 8. Smiling or such a voice or expression. 9. Consideration, have your mind to help or take care of. Dominic Proctor said, only a company or individual who has a strategic partnership with a competitor in a corporate environment where everything is uncertain survives. Longfellow said, do not trust the future, bury the dead past, and act on the living present. Heinrich said, if there was a major disaster in the course of a disaster, there were 29 minor disasters that occurred on the same occasion, and there were 300 instances of the same accident that caused the disaster. 29. 300 rule. Benjamin Franklin said, father is treasure, brother is comfort, friend is treasure as well as comfort. Confucius said, if a king has only bravery without manners, he makes the world busy, and if a snobbish person has only bravery without manners, he will be a thief. Pushikin said, though life may deceive you, do not be angry or sad, endure the days of joy, believe in the days of joy, the day of joy will come, the mind lives in the future, the present is sad, everything is momentary, things will be cherished in the future. Che Gundam said, a tree will know that the glory of flowers, branches and leaves are in vain after only the roots are left with leaves fallen. A human will know that the offspring and the wealth are useless only after the lid of his coffin is covered. Abraham Lincoln said, you can fool everyone for a while, and you can always fool some people, but you cannot always fool everyone. Mike McLaren said, do not give up, if you have something you want to be, take pride in it, give yourself a chance, set your goals high. Schwartz said, sunlight gives a warm light to anyone, and a smiling face gives a feeling of closeness like sunshine. To enjoy life, you have to laugh without a frowning face. You are going to watch a video about basics presented by Michael Norton, social science researcher served on TED.
So I want to talk today about money and happiness, which are two things that a lot of us spend a lot of our time thinking about, either trying to earn them or trying to increase them. And a lot of us resonate with this phrase, so we see it in religions and self-help books, that money can't buy happiness. And I want to suggest today that in fact that's wrong, and that I'm at a business school, so that's what we do, so that's wrong. And in fact, if you think that, you're actually just not spending it right, so that instead of spending it the way you usually spend it, maybe if you spent it differently, that might work a little bit better. And before I tell you the ways that you can spend it that will make you happier, let's think about the ways we usually spend it that don't, in fact, make us happier. We had a little natural experiment. So CNN a little while ago wrote this interesting article on what happens to people when they win the lottery. It turns out people think when they win the lottery their lives are going to be amazing. This article is about how their lives get ruined. So what happens when people win the lottery is, number one, they spend all the money and go into debt. And number two, all of their friends and everyone they've ever met find them and bug them for money. And it ruins their social relationships, in fact. So they have more debt and worse friendships than they had before they won the lottery. What was interesting about the article was people started commenting on the article, readers of the thing. And instead of talking about how it had made them realize that money doesn't lead to happiness, everyone instantly started saying, you know what I would do if I won the lottery? and fantasizing about what they do. And here's just two of the ones that we saw that are just really interesting to think about. One person wrote in, when I win, I'm going to buy my own little mountain and have a little house on top. And another person wrote, I would fill a big bathtub with money and get in the tub while smoking a big fat cigar and sipping a glass of champagne. This is even worse now. Then I'd have a picture taken and dozens of glossies made. Anyone begging for money or trying to extort from me would receive a copy of the picture and nothing else. And so many of the comments were exactly of this type, where people got money, and in fact, it made them antisocial So I told you that it ruins people's lives and that their friends bug them. It also, money often makes us feel very selfish and we do things only for ourselves. And we said, well, maybe the reason that money doesn't make us happy is that we're always spending it on the wrong things, and in particular that we're always spending it on ourselves. And we thought, I wonder what would happen if we made people spend more of their money on other people. So instead of being antisocial with your money, what if you were a little bit more pro-social with your money? And we thought, let's make people do it and see what happens. So let's have some people do what they usually do and spend money on themselves, and let's make some people give money away and measure their happiness and see if in fact they get happier. So the first way that we did this, on one Vancouver morning, we went out on the campus at University of British Columbia, and we approached people and said, do you want to be in an experiment? And they said yes. We asked them how happy they were, and then we gave them an envelope. And one of the envelopes had things in it that said, by 5 p.m. today, spend this money on yourself. So when we gave some examples of what you could spend it on. Other people in the morning got a slip of paper that said, by 5 p.m. today, spend this money on somebody else. Also inside the envelope was money, and we manipulated how much money we gave them. So some people got this slip of paper and $5. Some people got this slip of paper and $20. We let them go about their day. They did whatever they wanted to do. We found out that they did, in fact, spend it in the way that we asked them to. We called them up at night and asked them, what'd you spend it on, and how happy do you feel now? What did they spend it on? Well, these are college undergrads, so a lot of what they spent it on for themselves was things like earrings and makeup. One woman said she bought a stuffed animal for her niece. People gave money to homeless people. Huge effect here of Starbucks. So if you give undergraduates $5, it looks like coffee to them, and they run over to Starbucks and spend it as fast as they can. But some people bought a coffee for themselves the way they usually would, but other people said that they bought a coffee for somebody else. So the very same purchase, just targeted toward yourself or targeted toward somebody else. What did we find when we called them back at the end of the day? People who spent money on other people got happier. People who spent money on themselves, nothing happened. It didn't make them less happy, it just didn't do much for them. And the other thing we saw is that the amount of money doesn't matter that much. So people thought that $20 would be way better than $5. In fact, it doesn't matter how much money you spent. What really matters is that you spent it on somebody else rather than on yourself. We see this again and again when we give people money to spend on other people instead of on themselves. Of course, these are undergraduates in Canada, not the world's most representative population. They're also fairly wealthy and affluent and all these other sorts of things. We wanted to see if this holds true everywhere in the world or just among wealthy countries. So we went, in fact, to Uganda and ran a very similar experiment. So imagine instead of just people Canada, we say, name the last time you spent money on yourself or other people, describe it, how happy did it make you? Or in Uganda, name the last time you spent money on yourself or other people, and describe that, and then we ask them how happy they are. Again, and what we see is sort of amazing because there's human universals on what you do with your money and then real cultural differences on what you do as well. So for example, one guy from Uganda says this. He says, I called a girl I wish to love. We basically went out on a date, and he says at the end that he didn't achieve her up till now. Here's a guy from Canada, very similar thing. I took my girlfriend out for dinner, we went to a movie, we left early, and then went back to her room for only cake. Just cake only. Human universal. So you spend money on other people, you're being nice to them. Maybe you have something in mind, maybe not. But then we see extraordinary differences. So look at these two. This is a woman from Canada. We say, name a time you spent money on somebody else. She says, I bought a present for my mom. I drove to the mall in my car, bought a present, gave it to my mom. Perfectly nice thing to do. It's good to get gifts for people that you know. Compare that to this woman from Uganda. I was walking and met a longtime friend whose son was sick with malaria. They had no money. They went to a clinic. And I gave her this money. This isn't $10,000, it's the local currency. So it's a very small amount of money, in fact, but enormously different motivations here. This is a real medical need, literally a life-saving donation. Above, it's just kind of, bought a gift for my mother. What we see again, though, is that the specific way that you spend on other people isn't nearly as important as the fact that you spend on other people in order to make yourself happy, which is really quite important. So you don't have to do amazing things with your money to make yourself happy. You can do small, trivial things and yet still get these benefits from doing this. These are only 2 countries. We also wanted to go even broader and look at every country in the world, if we could, to see what the relationship is between money and happiness. We got data from the Gallup organization, which you know from all the political polls that have been happening lately. They asked people, did you donate money to charity recently? And they asked them, how happy are you with your life in general? And we can see what the relationship is between those 2 things. Are they positively correlated, giving money makes you happy, or are they negatively correlated? On this map, green will mean they're positively correlated, and red means they're negatively correlated. And you can see the world is crazily green. So in almost every country in the world where we have this data, people who give money to charity are happier people than people who don't give money to charity. I know you're all looking at that red country in the middle. I would be a jerk and not tell you what it is, but in fact, it's Central African Republic. You can make up stories. Maybe it's different there for some reason or another. Just below that to the right is Rwanda, though, which is amazingly green. So almost everywhere we look, we see that giving money away makes you happier than keeping it for yourself. What about your work life, which is where we spend all the rest of our time when we're not with the people we know? We decided to infiltrate some companies and do a very similar thing. So these are sales teams in Belgium. They work in teams. They go out and sell basically to doctors and try to get them to buy drugs. So we can look to see how well they sell things as a function of being a member of a team. Some teams, we give people on the team some money for themselves and say, spend it however you want on yourself, just like we did with the undergrads in Canada. But other teams, we say, here's 15 euro. Spend it on one of your teammates this week. Buy them something as a gift or a present and give it to them. And then we can see, now we've got teams that spend on themselves, and we've got these pro-social teams who we give money to make the team a little bit better. The reason I have a ridiculous piñata there is one of the teams pulled their money and bought a piñata, and they all got around and smashed the piñata, and all the candy fell out and things like that. A very silly, trivial thing to do, but think of the difference on a team that didn't do that at all, that got 15 euro, put it in their pocket, maybe bought themselves a coffee, or teams that had this pro-social experience where they all bonded together to buy something and do a group activity. What we see is that, in fact, the teams that are pro-social sell more stuff than the teams that only got money for themselves. And one way to think about it is, for every 15 euro you give people for themselves, they put it in their pocket, they don't do anything different than they did before, you don't get any money from that. You actually lose money because it doesn't motivate them to perform any better. But when you give them 15 euro to spend on their teammates, they do so much better on their teams that you actually get a huge win on investing this kind of money. And I realize that you're probably thinking to yourselves, this is all fine, but there's a context that's incredibly important for public policy, and I can't imagine it would work there. And if he doesn't show me that it works here, I don't believe anything he said. And I know that what you're all thinking about are dodgeball teams. This was a huge criticism that we got, to say, if you can't show with dodgeball teams, this is all stupid. So we went out and found these dodgeball teams and infiltrated them, and we did the exact same thing as before. So some teams we give people on the team money, they spend it on themselves. Other teams we give them money to spend on their dodgeball teammates. The teams that spent money on themselves, they're just the same winning percentage as they were before. The teams that we give them money to spend on each other, they become different teams, and in fact, they dominate the league by the time they're done. Across all of these different contexts, your personal life, your work life, even silly things like intramural sports, we see spending on other people has a bigger return for you than spending on yourself. And so I'll just say, I think if you think money can't buy happiness, you're not spending it right. The implication is not, you should buy this product instead of that product, and that's the way to make yourself happier. It's in fact that you should stop thinking about which product to buy for yourself and try giving some of it to other people instead. And we luckily have an opportunity for you. DonorsChoose.org is a nonprofit for mainly public school teachers in low-income schools. They post projects, so they say, I want to teach Huckleberry Finn to my class, and we don't have the books. Or I want a microscope to teach my students science, and we don't have a microscope. You and I can go on and buy it for them. The teacher writes you a thank you note. The kids write you a thank you note. Sometimes they send you pictures of them using the microscope. It's an extraordinary thing. Go to the website and start yourself on the process of thinking, again, less about how can I spend money on myself and more about if I've got $5 or $15, what can I do to benefit other people? Because ultimately when you do that, you'll find out you'll benefit yourself much more. Thank you.
Why don't you think about the definition of basics and fill out the table? Stop this video for about 10 minutes until you fill out the table, and start it again when you finish. How to execute the virtue of basics. 1. I am a person who is faithful to basic and has a spontaneous abdomen to keep the righteousness among people. 2. I often meet friends and actively participate in online and offline clubs and social groups. 3. I live a life that conforms to thoughts, minds, and behaviors while keeping the courtesy as a person. 4. I write an audit diary or thank you letter every day that is always thankful to small things every day. 5. When I talk to another person, I listen to it and try to understand it from the perspective of the person. 6. I live an honest life that does not deceive others, and I refuse to make bad income bribes or entertainment. 7. I respect myself, respect my family, colleagues, and people around me. 8. I always treat people with laughter and often use interesting humor. 9. I practice after you and consider other people first, such as the socially weaker ones. What are the basics to follow because you are a human being? Stop this video for about 10 minutes until you fill out the table, and start it again when you finish. Bullying and school violence are emerging as social problems. Students suffer from suicide, and the school and the government are preparing measures. Bullying and violence at school are repeated in the workplace. They keep doing at work as per their habit of doing what they learned at school. This social phenomenon is partly due to the fall of self sufficiency and the failure of the education system to work properly. The Ministry of Education has been promoting the education of dining table to the minister, but it is confusing because the concept and contents about what dining table education is are not arranged. Children learn the world through their parents. In particular, you should teach through experience what they should not do until they become mature adults. Nevertheless, with the simple idea that children's ardor should not be damned, young parents nowadays are crying that they are doing well without telling them the basics of what to do and what not to do. Even if their children are very haughty in public transportation or public places, they neither persuade nor scold. If others cannot stand their children's haughty behavior and scold them, they blurt out loudly not to damn their children. Of course, developing children's creativity and letting them do well is a necessity to encourage them to do better. Nevertheless, parents who do not teach such courtesy and reluctance, even though there is the kindness and dignity that each should observe if you are using public places and public transport with others, should have no qualification as a parent. Giving birth to their children does not mean that they became grown up parents. It is the parents' duty to nurture them so that they are equal in society. In the past, in the neighborhood community, each other's children learned about each other's good points and admonished children to heal bad things. But nowadays, it is natural to live alone in a separate place in an apartment, and the concept of big family has collapsed and it becomes a small family. So all the parents should take care of discipline preach which was done in the old community. The sad thing is that mom and dad, working together, do not have absolute time to talk to their children. Even though they must have a chance to see each other and talk about their thoughts, they are too busy to have time to sit together at the dining table at the same time. In the relationship between married couples, among father and boys, mother and girls, it is sometimes mistaken for them to have done their duty just by buying gifts and eating out from time to time. Now we have to recover the conversation. In the morning and evening, once a day, you should talk about each other's interests, good things, bad things, hard things, and make time to share what you know. A country cannot stand upright unless the family stands upright at home. The basis of the family is that the parents have to be like parents, and the children are like children. As soon as the parents give up their roles and obligations, their children make their own world and are isolated from their family. Children isolated from the family cannot distinguish between what should and should not be done. Family relationships are the basis of all human relationships. Even in the workplace, manners are breaking down. Young people have a spirit and a passion for young people. Because they are more accustomed to living alone than living together, there are a lot of young people who cannot adjust to the community of work or take pride in themselves without caring about others. The company is not an organization that is doing well alone. We need to create an organization that works well together. The basis of communication, called in technical terms as conversation. If the communication does not work, it suffers from arteriosclerosis and dies by itself. Most workplaces have a ceremonial event. The date with meals may be held on a regular basis, or a special day may be taken for circulation. These days, young people hate this kind of meeting. It is because they are used to being alone and enjoying being alone. It is also the rule of the practice that the ceremony is an extension of the work, or furthermore, an extension of the boss's nagging. It is time to get to know each other through conversation and private conversation for private matters that are hard to discuss at work. Because it helps the business, the company is willing to pay for it at a cost. It is also a high level strategy to create performance through the recovery of human relations. Although such a ceremony is recognized only as an event to eat and drink, it is possible to have the same conversation through the restaurant event as the education at the dining table at home. If you prepare a cheerful place to share stories, difficulties, and experiences with some drink instead of a boring place letting people drink alcohol compulsorily, you will have a pleasant and informative party. At the dinner party, the head or the senior should listen to the young people if possible. When juniors talk about their anxieties, they should listen seriously and share their experiences and form a consensus. One way to teach your juniors is to use the lunch time. It is a role to play as a nice senior to listen to a junior who is having difficulties while having a meal. It is a way to find a hidden 1 inch that restores the relationship with your children at home and with younger juniors at work. Think about people who have been helpful to your life. Stop this video for about 10 minutes until you fill out the table, and start it again when you finish. Write names of close friends, colleagues, bosses, and subordinates. Stop this video for about 10 minutes until you fill out the table, and start it again when you finish. The shape of water varies depending on which container it is in, but the fate changes depending on which friends you meet. A good relationship is created when people communicate with each other with heart and sincerity. Write an appreciation letter to the most thankful person in your life. Stop this video for about 10 minutes until you fill out the table, and start it again when you finish. Let's talk about the basics. How to become a person who is faithful to basic and has a spontaneous abdication to protect the righteousness among people. Basics lexical concept is the foundation and fundamentals of things, phenomena, theories, and facilities. Basics cannot be overemphasized. A person without a base can collapse at any time like a house built on sand. In a word, you should be a person with manners and politeness. When you learn to play as a hobby, it is necessary to learn the basic standard procedure steadily, and you can put it into practice. In a golf lesson, for the first 1 month they teach a boring swing only. In ancient days, for Chinese language study, it was said that a student could not write another letter until he wrote the first letter of long perfectly. That's because basics and fundamentals are so important. If you are good at the basics, there is no shaking. Fundamentals and principles should be respected. As an old saying goes, it is better to be safe than sorry. You must be a person with good manners. A person who has seen, heard, and learned is a person with good manners. A word of a person without good manners is used when rebuking a person who is guilty of breach of good manners. In the Western proverb, men stumble over pebbles, never over mountains. It means that a person does not fall on the mountain, but falls on a small stone. Neglecting the basics is like falling over a small stone. Things that are neglected on a daily basis can be critical to a crucial moment. All Koreans live very hard. They struggled to overcome their backward life by leaning on the virtue of the zenith of growth and development under the slogan of "Our 1 year is the decade of the world," and finally they succeeded in overtaking other countries in many sectors. In the process, however, the law of defection and speed violation has naturally occurred. Now that they are in the stage of reflection and introspection that it is not the whole thing, their appearance these days is that consciousness and action still do not match each other, and name and reality do not match each other. Why don't the national academic level and economy get better even though students are studying their butts off and executives do not get off work? A misguided passion, a reckless driving force, and a busy life without endlessness or problems. If each individual misguides his wrong passion, the society and the nation would have to be the same. Morality is naturally lowered, and only the doubtful expertise remains as a shield to overcome. We live listening to the word, human respect. It is not convincing to talk about other people without following the basics. The book of I Learned Everything I Really Need to Know in Kindergarten says, I learned everything about dreaming and wisely living the world in kindergarten. In fact, what we learned in kindergarten or elementary school is all about teaching the basics. That is because what we learned in kindergarten and elementary school is to teach the basics. Because they teach unchanging principles to live in this world, it is important that even if you get older, you cannot escape what you learned in kindergarten or elementary school. Be honest. Be kind. Say goodbye. Dream big. Those words are what successful people say is keys to success, so you can realize that you have learned those words in your childhood. Broken window law also tells how important the basics are. The law of broken windows is the theory of criminology published in 1982 by James Wilson and George Kellens. According to this theory, if a building owner leaves a broken window untouched, the passing children or passersby will also throw a stone and break up the rest of the window, increasing the probability of a violent crime such as theft or robbery in the building. In 1994, Rudolph Giuliani, mayor of New York, amassed the urban environment and corrected the order by applying the law of broken windows. A research team of the University of Groningen in the Netherlands confirmed it. The results of the research team are as follows. They put a letter envelope with €5 in a post office box in a clean place and in a mailbox in a messy place. The money in the letter was made visible. And they observed the behavior of passers-by. Then, only 13% of the envelopes in the clean environment were picked up, but in a messy environment mailbox, 25% of the passengers picked up the envelope. Now we talk about friends. You would rather meet friends frequently and actively participate in online and offline clubs, social groups. Friends' lexical concept is a person who has lived closely together. In a British newspaper, they asked a question: how to get to London fastest from the end of the UK. First place was with good friends. If you are with a good friend, it means you are not bored because you can sleep amusingly even though it is a long way to go. There should be a friend who can laugh and cry together with you. We have to make friends respecting each other. A friend is like a sail of life, and it has a big impact on one's life. Among Aesop's fables, there is a story of a bear and two travelers. Two very good friends were going along the mountain road, but a bear suddenly appeared and blocked the way. At that time, a friend who was quick and quickly moved up the tree. But another friend could not find a place and fell flat on the ground. The bear then approached a friend who had fallen on the ground and smelled his nose and went away as if nothing had happened. After the bears disappeared, a friend who had come up on the tree came down and asked, "What did the bear whisper to?" And his reply was a masterpiece. "Yes, the bear said this. He told me not to deal with such a friend who runs away from me in difficult circumstances." This story gives us a great lesson. It is about companion consciousness. It is a time when friendship is needed to be able to take care of others from their own life. There is a weak ring theory in business administration. Mark Granavita published in 1973 an article in the American Journal of Sociology entitled Strength of Weak Ties. This article contains interesting facts about employment through personal connections. When we look at the correlation between employment and connections, it is not the connections of the so-called strong links but the connections of the weak links demonstrate influence. The strong ring mentioned here refers to a network of intimate relationships. A close relative, such as a close friend, a schoolmate, a parent, a brother, or a cousin, becomes a strong link. A weak link, on the other hand, is a network of links that is much weaker. Being a friend of a friend, or meeting just once at a party can be tied to a weak link. As a result of the study, the weaker link than the stronger link showed much stronger power at the moment of actual employment decision. Francis also shows the strong strength of weak rings. Everyone wants a friend who comforts them when they are in trouble and gives them a smile when they are happy. But meeting such a friend is not easy. In short, it's because everybody is busy eating and living. It is even more difficult to meet such a warm friend at work, especially in a fiercely competitive structure. This is because they compete with each other for recognition. Modern people who are struggling with unlimited competition and feeling of alienation are coming to the sound of the teaching that half of good luck comes from my efforts and half comes from friends. More than six friendly people who can meet regularly in a troublesome job of fixing fluorescent lights and water pipes are the conditions for the happiness of old age, which a UK social organization offered. People should not be inconvenienced in living, but if the basic thing is solved, the important thing is to spend time together and talk with friends. The elderly are not the only ones who need someone to be around. We all miss someone who we can call at any time, who we can complain to when we are frustrated with what to do. It is the comfort and encouragement of someone who takes my side, letting me endure the rigors of reality, unhappiness, and unrighteous situations. In their paper, Harvard Christian sociologist Nicholas Christakis and California political scientist James Fowler argued that the weight of a person is influenced not only by personal factors but also by people around him. For example, obesity is a disease that is infected by a close friend rather than an individual's genetic propensity or lifestyle. It was the result of studying the phenomenon of happiness spreading in 50,000 social networks, including 4,700 companions, relatives, friends, neighbors, and work colleagues who participated in heart disease research for 20 years from 1983 to 2003. If a person is happy, it is found to affect even those who are away in the three stages. If a person is happy, it means that he or she will feel happiness to a friend 3, of a friend 2, of the friend 1. For example, if you are happy, you can entertain your school junior's girlfriend who doesn't even know your face. Research shows that if you are happy, 25% of your friends, 10% of your friends' friends, and 5.6% of your friends' friends are happier. Happiness is not a mere personal emotion, but a collective phenomenon, and it has turned out to be infectious. Maner's lexical concept is speech or demeanor shown as manners to express respect. Courtesy is speech or gesture shown as manners to express respect, and it is the act that a person ought to have in order to express respect in relation to a person. Courtesy to oneself, courtesy to the other, courtesy to society are all important. It is basic manners as a human being to live a nice and hard life for oneself. It is also polite to consider others. It is called etiquette, such as saying words, attitudes, behaviors, etc., to express oneself in order to comply with a person. Manners are the expressions of courtesy and passion, which means acting in the spirit of love and honor that comes from the heart. It is because human beings are distinguished from beasts by a culture that respects basic manners as a person. As it is said that when catching the steering wheel, even Confucius changes his attitude, people become nervous about the very small things. In the bottleneck area, others wait for a long time and keep their turn, but the behavior that interrupts in front of the intersection suddenly, and the act of running on the shoulder of highway makes people uncomfortable and darkens society. Courtesy is to care for others, but in the end you will benefit. When you look at wedding ceremonies, the first request is to be respectful of each other. It is based on the premise that young people who grew up in different environments share their lives together under one roof. And with dreams, do not say anything that hurts the other party's heart. Do not lie to the other party. Do not compare the other party with others, and tell them to treat the other party's parents well. This is the basic courtesy between the couple. Polite speech, courteous behavior, decent management, and respectful relationships are the survival strategies for the future of the Republic of Korea. From ancient times, Korea had a reputation as a country of courtesy in the East. 2,300 years ago, Yongbin, a seventh generation of Confucius, gathered stories about Korea and wrote a book. The title of The Eastern Courtesy Country has been the national traditional brand of the Republic of Korea, which means that the country has a small land area and a small population but has a high ethnicity, high morality, and good manners. Although Confucius recognized Korea, there are few people who say that Korea is the Eastern Courtesy Country. It is because morals, ethics, and etiquette in homes, schools, and society fell to the bottom. Confucius said, "If it is not courtesy, do not look, do not listen, do not talk, do not move." This emphasizes that the only way for humans to live as human beings is to live according to manners. Our ancestors were respected as people of manners. We should also take pride as a citizen of the Eastern Courtesy Country by living the courtesy. You must remember the following words from Churchill, Winston Leonard Spencer Churchill. Do not be disrespectful to others, do not be treated disrespectfully by others. Be polite to all, be friendly to many, be intimate to some, be friends to one, and be no enemies to anyone. If you do not be arrogant while standing on the ground, no matter how high you are, you will not be in danger. If you keep your manners and law, you will not overflow. See a man with your cool eyes, hear his words with a cold ears.